Morning. So we're going to set this aside. It's pretty much done. I've signed it. And inevitably there might be some things that I notice after I detach from it a little bit that I want to correct. It might stay exactly as it is. Who knows? But I'm going to set this aside. And we're going to remove that 20 or 24-inch canvas, and we're going to do a painting based upon a reference photo that I took a while back. That is going to, I'm going to use as my substrate, if you will. I think that's such a fancy term. My canvas. This 19.5 by 19.5 inch wood panel that I've gessoed. So cut to fit a vintage frame, pretty plain one, not real fancy. 19.5 by 19.5 inches, kind of an odd square size. 3 layers of gesso, sanded in between each layer after it dried. I got a little eyelash in there, which I'm going to leave. But we are going to start the painting. Maybe we'll paint for an hour or so today. And I'm going to be painting in acrylics again. I just started using acrylic paint for these sorts of paintings, and I'm enjoying it. Easy to clean up. Colors are pretty robust. So it's a little Bayside sunset scene, one of our favorite areas. This is at LBI in New Jersey, and we're going to go ahead and get this set up. So let's see, hopefully we can do this without destroying anything. I might need to clip it into place, we'll see. Yeah, I'm probably gonna have to clip it so it doesn't fall. And I'll zoom in a little bit so you can see. Address. So my zipper doesn't. There we go. Alright. It should be fine. It might be a disaster, but just want to have my reference photo close by. It helps me work a little bit more quickly. Zoom in a little bit so you see less of my mess, more of the canvas. There you go. And as I've done with the last 2 paintings that I've done on this Livestream open studio, I'm going to start out. I'm definitely going to tone the canvas. It's very helpful in a lot of different situations, but in this one where the dominant kind of trait of this scene is the light filtering through the scene, because we're not quite at sunset. We're late afternoon, and at this point in LBI, where you're looking over the bay, this is a spot in LBI, New Jersey, which is a barrier island where you have some of the touristy stuff, some of the old kitschy stuff. You know, right behind there's a little miniature arcade, or there's an arcade and a miniature theme park, and a whole bunch of other stuff there in Beach Haven. And when you go to the western side of the barrier island, it's one of the wider areas on the island. This is the scene that you can see, and you know, my family and I, when we get a chance to go there, there's just a lot of memories there. So it's one of our favorite places. This is one of our favorite scenes. I've painted it before, you know, really early on when I started painting regularly, and my reference material wasn't that great, and my knowledge of painting, you know, was kind of, I was still finding my way a little bit. I'm hoping that I can come up with a piece that's a little bit more nuanced, kind of honors what you see going on in the photo, kind of evokes the same kind of feelings of calmness and awe that you might get if you're seeing this scene. A little bit more subtle use of the paint in order to kind of get that. So I'm going to start with, I'm going to tone my board with a thin layer probably of transparent orange oxide, and then we'll let it dry and tack up a little bit and put in a little bit of an underpainting, no detail at all, just the big shadow patterns. And then it'll probably be tomorrow when we'll start blocking in, you know, some of the shapes and shapes within the shapes, and noodling a little bit with the color and get the direction going. I think because this is a little smaller than the paintings that I've done before, more recently, at least on the live stream, I might be able to get this done a little bit more quickly. So instead of 5 or 6 hour to 2 hour long painting sessions, I might be able to get it done a little bit quicker, but you know, however long it takes, whatever it takes to kind of get it to where it needs to be is fine. So from here on out, not a lot of talking. It's early in the morning. I'll just be painting away. And for scenes like this where you want a little unity and unifying element, toning the canvas and the transparent color, yeah, I've just been enjoying the use of this transparent orange oxide. You could also use transparent yellow ochre, you could use transparent red oxide. That choice will influence your painting quite a bit, but one of the things that it does do is it helps kind of unify the tone of the painting. Also gives you an opportunity through the use of reverse painting, where you actually take the color off of the substrate to kind of mark out where some of the highlights will be. Also kind of get your brain and your hands working together in a low risk kind of way. Just getting your paint on and take some of it off. Although with acrylic, sometimes it dries faster than you have time to actually wipe it off in some cases. Get that out quite a bit. When you have an underpainting with a color like this too, when you have a natural scene like this, sometimes letting it peek through different areas of the scene can play to your advantage and create some interest. A little bit more ease and looks natural. Sometimes more natural than an actual intentional brush stroke. So go ahead and just cover the whole panel. Try and be a little more heavy-handed in areas where there's some darker shadows. That's fine. Let the paint and the brush work for you. A lot of people that are not from New Jersey, so I live in Pennsylvania now, but I was originally from New Jersey, and so is my wife. You know, think of the state as, if they think of it at all, some of the stereotypical ways, you know, the armpit of the nation, and you know all this funny stuff. But it is a beautiful state, and one of the beautiful elements of it are its beaches and the coastline. I'm going to wipe some of this away using this paper towel. And a little bit of judgment and taste will come into play already here. So I'm going to slide the actual white spot behind the clouds about a third. I'm going to use the rule of thirds here. It's wet enough where it'll, there we go. Just want to use the strength and coolness and boldness of the white gesso to help do some of the work here. In those spots where we have some of the highlights and later spots in this image. And we're going to have limited time to do it because this acrylic paint dries pretty rapidly. Let that tack up a little bit more. Now we're going to mix up. Well, first we'll use a little bit of our Mars Black, and then we'll mix up some grays. Block in some of those grays, and then we'll probably wrap up the session pretty quickly here. A little bit of Mars Black. I don't think we'll need a lot of it. We'll come back and we'll get a little bit of gray in there. With the orange still on my brush, I'm going to go with a low horizon. And I have these islands, very low profile. So these are essentially islands that formed in the bay between the barrier island and the mainland. They're very small. And they'll have some vegetation, they'll have, in some cases, there'll be structures on them. A little too big there, but that's fine. I'll gray that out a little bit more. orange. And then we're going to get color called rainy gray, which is kind of like a cooler gray color. For underpainting here, we don't want to go too cool too fast. It's as a general rule, it's easier when you keep your kind of ordering of how you apply the paint when you go from warm to cool. Generally will help make things go better. Keep some doors open for you as you progress in the painting. So I'm going to warm up this gray a little bit. Have a mixture of Mars Black, Rainy Gray, and transparent orange oxide. And we're going to go ahead and put in some of these large cloud shapes. I might change the name of this painting because the dominant feature here really are the clouds, and just so happens to be over the bay, but it almost looks like this cloud mass almost looks like a crown. We'll see. I'm gonna thin this out a little bit. There you go. Paint was way too thick. It's just not flowing onto. There you go. Right now, I'm not really worried about detail at all, just the general shapes, which I might change depending upon how this painting progresses. I'm not going to be married to what I see in my reference photo, although I do really like it a lot. probably blue this out at some point to push this back, but for now I just want to get the note in there from a rough values perspective of the more distant island. It's also going to be thinned out quite a bit. Oh, it'll be almost invisible when it's all said and done. So you can see here in this underpainting, while there is some color, this orange, this transparent orange oxide and Mars black, for the most part this is all about values. Lights and darks, just kind of mapping it out. Add a little bit more of this orangey grayish brown closer to the horizon here. It's a big mess right now, it's okay. We'll fix this up pretty good by the time we're done. Also, one thing I'm thinking about experimenting with in order to get the sun rays that are kind of cutting through the lower cloud fields, I might use painter's tape or masking tape to make sure that those lines ultimately are the ones that ultimately are on the surface of the painting that you see when it's done, so that they're straight and we're not relying upon my shaky caffeine-ridden hands, which sometimes will negatively impact my ability to draw straight lines. Alright, okay, I think we got it covered for the most part. Bring some more dark value over here. And we have a little boat, which I'm probably going to include which is barely visible. We'll suggest that as detail when we get a little closer. So right now it just looks like an orange and gray mess, but those are just the basic values that I see in the scene. And you know, we haven't been painting for that long, so what I might do is I might go ahead and try and block in some of the golden hues in the center part of the painting, and maybe some of the blue ones at the top of the sky field and in the water. Let me try and do that with the same palette, but just add some colors. Hold on 1 second, and then we'll wrap up. Clean off my palette here. I can't remember if I bought yellow ochre think I did, so I'll be using benzimidione yellow light, or medium rather. And we'll mix that in with some of the transparent orange oxide and some titanium white. Clean brush. Filbert. It's like number one. Oh, hello. Good morning. Kind of blend this into like a peach color using my yellow medium, transparent red oxide, a little bit of the gray, and titanium white. And that's going to be one of the colors that you'll see. Throughout this area here. Because that orange is in the background, you don't have to work as hard. To cover the painting, which is always nice. that into the water. Alright. We'll stick to the plane here. We'll go ahead and get some of that blue going. Use cerulean blue. I'm going to put a little bit of it close to the gray here on my palette. We still have the white. Still have the gray, cerulean blue, so a mixture of cerulean blue, white, and a little touch of gray. We don't want that blue to become too dominant too early. And sometimes I'd wait to add this until closer to the end, but I think it's going to be important to kind of use this sky color as a visual cue while progressing through this painting. In this case, the sky plane is definitely going to possess the brightest values by far, and from that constant we can measure all the other values in the painting, and it'll help us create a little bit more of a convincing painting that reads better if we use that information properly. So we'll anchor, assuming we get it right, we'll anchor to this value. Everything else in the painting we'll want to have set to a darker value. Oops, getting some paint on my iPad. There's quite a bit of white in this mixture of sky blue here, so this is a pretty white value. Only the brightest, very limited areas of highlight in the water will reflect this, and just about everywhere else is going to be darker for the most part. Okay. Maybe a lighter, grayer version of this blue. For some of the other kind of areas where the blue is peeking through. Especially closer to the horizon. come accustomed by habit to use mostly vertical strokes when painting, especially the upper sky plane. And I think that does a good job of helping to create the illusion of kind of like an atmospheric effect. And it's a little bit more subtle with acrylics because you don't have the same kind of buttery thickness that you might have with olive prima painting and oils, but you still get it. I see it anyway. Alright. So there's that. And now I'm going to go in to my blue, a little bit of gray, a little bit of Mars black, and we have kind of like a really cool gray that's going to be the base color for the water. Grayish blue, a little orange in there, warm it up a little bit. Sort of grayish purpley blue. And darker. A little too heavy-handed there, but it's okay, we can fix that. Okay. And use some of this to fortify some of the bigger, darker cloud shapes before we wrap up. Okay. Probably gonna wrap up here this session. You can get an idea of, where I'm headed directionally with this. We're gonna let that rest for a little bit. Roughed in the major shadow shapes. Before that, toned the canvas with orange oxide. Added a little splash of color here and there. And from here on out, it'll just be a matter of kind of grappling with the painting, the general idea we want to convey, making sure that aesthetically it kind of gets to where we want it to be. Hopefully we'll get this done within 2 or 3 sessions, but if it takes 6, 7, 10, doesn't matter. But thanks for checking out my Open Studio live stream, and we'll be back tomorrow early in the morning, roughly at the same time, somewhere between 4 a.m. and 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and hopefully by the time we wrap up tomorrow, this will be looking pretty good. But thanks for checking out my work here. Hope you have a great day. Stay well.